This weekend, Andy's gaming on ice, Ryan is putting his collection on ice, and we get out of the car on the Game Boy. I'm Ryan.
I'm Andy.
And this is Weekend Rental, episode 196. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Andy, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Hanging in there.
As best as can be expected in these current days.
Yes.
So. Yeah.
We were just having a rant, as you do about current times, but
try to get as much of it out as we can before, because this is a happy distraction from the dumpster fire that surrounds a lot of living in this current climate. So, but yeah, well, how you been since we last recorded?
Pretty good. I guess I can go into one thing that an event.
Yeah, I'm curious on this.
Pretty much the coldest weekend of the year.
It's chilly.
Dove down to about 20 degrees below zero that night, so was really bad for this type of thing. But we had a LAN party on the ice, so we brought quite a few different little portable fish houses. My nephew has a very large one. You know those like big clam hexagonal ones?
Yep.
He has one that it's like two of those attached to each other.
Which those are mostly like, well, I mean, you can do whatever you want with them, but isn't like most of the purpose so you can also spearfish with those if you wanted to?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is with them, but yeah, they're rather large. And this one it's basically two of them connected to each other.
Okay.
It still folds up into the biggest bag you've ever seen in your life.
Right.
And it's like 4 guys need to carry the thing, but I don't know how portable it is at that point.
Yeah.
But technically, it's one of those. And we set up 8 tables in there and brought PCs. Some of them even brought like our computer towers out there with monitors and a whole bunch of stuff. And we played computer games on the ice, and the whole time we're just thinking, the one day I want the DNR officer to come.
Right.
The one day
to witness
be like,
this.
Yeah, come in here and see what we're doing.
He'd probably think it was like a highly organized like meth lab out on ice, and he'd all be just detained and like, I got to bring in somebody else. I'm just here for the fish.
Yep,
that's awesome. So, and you just did like a Wi-Fi like network, hotspotted it, everything ran fine.
Well, we tried to do a hotspot. We kind of had internet, but it was a little spotty, and I don't know if the networking got messed up between like the phone and the router that we had and stuff like that. So there was ones that had to go out to the internet or whatever, just didn't seem like they worked.
Sure.
So what basically we ended up with is playing Age of Mythology, a game from like 2003 that you could rely on because it's just straight LAN. It's just like here's connecting right to the things, right? So we played that, and man, I forgot how much I love that game.
Okay.
Those old games were, real-time strategy.
Did you catch any fish while you were doing this too?
Nope. We didn't even try.
No one was fishing?
Nope. Not even.
No one drilled a hole?
Nope. No holes, no nothing.
Then what's the point of inserting yourself into the tundra?
Yeah, that was a very valid question, I think. Considering how cold it was and we had to take this thing down at nighttime.
Oh God, I thought there was at least another purpose other than just because you can, but
no, it's we were green eggs and hamming it a little bit, I think, out there.
Wow. Well, you at least had some beer, I would hope.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's almost fishing then anyway, ice fishing. Ice fishing is like 70% beer and 30% fishing, I feel.
Right. They need to like modernize ice fishing a little bit.
How so?
Like you're not allowed to use like any electronics. Like the most technical thing that you can do is a tip up, right?
Sure.
I mean, I want something that notifies me. I want a text message or a push notification on my phone that there's a fish on the line, you know?
I'm sure you can do like a proximity sensor or like something on a tip up that would also do that.
I I think they make them for other states. It's illegal in Minnesota
Oh,
to have
really?
any type of that.
Huh.
Maybe in North Dakota, I don't know. That there's probably something that's like that. But
Yeah, I know those rules can get weird. So that's interesting though. That they wouldn't even just allow that.
right. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just like whether I'm
Looking out the window to see if a flag's in the air or you get a text. Yeah, what's the difference,
right,
right?
right,
It's probably
exactly,
more humane for the fish if you did have the like Wi-Fi and or like notification system.
right. Yep.
Because I mean, God, it would be so easy, really. You could just like put an AirPod on there and just like, oh, did it move? Like from the
Yep.
location I just tracked it? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a
Interesting.
lot of laws about I guess we have to make it fair for the fish.
Yeah. But they allow you to use multiple rods in the winter, which I think is strange. And then in the summer, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So in Minnesota, but I think in North Dakota, I can have at least, I can have two in the water. I don't know. Probably shouldn't like get myself in trouble. I haven't had a North Dakota license in about 7 years though. So,
Yeah.
so was
I
the lake you guys went on like at least close to your place? So you weren't like driving all over or?
a little bit. It's by my sister's place, which to get down to where we were at it's kind of like a goat trail
Oh, okay.
down to this other person's beach where they have. So obviously it's like not plowed or anything like that.
Uh,
So it was a little hairy to get down there if you don't have a truck.
yeah. And if
But
you're hauling full PC boxes and stuff, like
yeah.
not great.
Yeah, we had to go back and forth like 3 or 4 times.
So what was the
Just
consensus then? Was it worth the effort or will you guys next time just keep your land parties indoors?
so I think it's a group split. I think one of them I think most of us were like it was fun to do it once,
Sure.
like to say that you did it. But then there's a sub segment that's saying next year we're going to do that, you know.
Well, can I suggest the Maplewood State Park has those 3 cabins that have heat. You can rent them out for
You just
$80 a
do that.
night, and
Yeah.
there's like you can sleep like 8 people or 6 or I think 6 people in those things each one. Like you could totally they're all close together. You could still technically be out in nature and it'd be a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, so I think a lot of this revolves around my one nephew who's very much into the gear of this.
Sure.
Like he's the one that has these fancy portables. So he's very much into using like he gets excited about using his
Okay.
gear for this type of thing cuz I also work at a place that makes like really extremely
Yeah, I
fancy
forgot about that.
like ice houses. So I could rent those and bring or just borrow them from work and take them out there. But
Yeah.
I think that would be defeating the purpose of what
Of what the
you
vision
wanted this
is.
for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Interesting. Interesting.
I will say next year for sure. What they put it up early in the morning, and then we all took it down at night, and it's like a 2-hour job to get everything
Oh, I'm
set
sure.
up. So at that point, it wasn't worth that. Like if you were going to do this same thing again, you got to put it up the day before and then take it off the day after. Because
Yeah,
what's the
that
point
makes
of
sense.
only a few hours out there when you have to put it up and take it down?
Yeah, I can see that. Well, interesting. I mean, I guess it's one of those things. At least you can say you did it.
Yeah.
I hope there were a lot of social media posts among the group.
Yeah, there was a few photos back and forth. Yeah, just to see. I mean, you had to take some photos of how many. It looked like an underground, like a government like setup that they were like just setting up on the
This is
jungle
like
or
an
something like
X-Files
that, you know?
case where they're
Yeah.
just like, we saw a chupacabra. Like, here's the base of operations. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could totally see that. It's funny. Pretty warm though. You guys had like a good setup of like heaters and stuff.
Yeah, he's got a crazy diesel thing that pumps air in like crazy.
And you were running a generator, I assume, to power all the PCs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which that was crazy too. How many like extension cords and like that's the other thing. Like if any DNR guy saw all the cords coming out and around, he would have certainly stopped by. But
Nice. It's wild. Fun.
yeah.
Well, I didn't do anything that crazy since the last episode. Well, I guess we could talk about, we hopped on to a game.
Yeah.
With Chris and Fraser from the R3 podcast. I don't think we've all gotten together as a group and played an online game before, but we did some Sea of Thieves, which was fun. I mean, that's a fun game when you got a group that's just like willing to like jump in and go for stuff. And those guys being pretty new pirates in the game. Well, I think Chris said he'd played, but yeah, we were getting through missions just fine. It's just we ran into that like rash of like asshole players in your game world where like everything was getting sabotaged, and then it became they're extremely bloodthirsty for Canadians. I didn't picture Canadians as a conquering nation, but once they got a taste of like PvP, they're like, no, we're just here to hunt down other players, which I had fun playing, but we sucked at chasing other players. None of us in that game session are skilled enough or veteran enough with that game to be even a remote threat to anyone who's a more competent human being in that. Plus that, I don't know, like I'd never played the Galleon before. And that Galleon ship, even with 4 players, is just too much to manage. There's too much ship. There's too many roles, too many sails. Like, I don't like it. Like, I think I prefer either the sloop or the mid one, which I can't remember the name of that.
Yeah, I think I'm with you too, because it seemed like, well, obviously it doesn't turn. It doesn't like handle very well, right?
Right.
And yeah, we were chasing just a couple of dudes on a small boat, and they were just going wherever the hell they wanted to, and we were
yeah, and we got close, but like the sloop is so much faster against the wind, and you only have X amount of seconds, like where crossing paths that you can get a few shots off anyway. So it just felt like a losing battle, and then I mean, we did have some fun. I think we finally like broke up that like fight between the skeleton boat, the skeleton galleon, and the other player. I think that was after Fraser had to drop. We had my buddy Tom jump in, and that was good. That felt satisfying.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
To finally pull one out. But yeah, again, I love the gameplay loop in that game because it's just like it's such a simple game and like such basic mechanics, but just the way everything can go so sideways so quick is kind of what makes the game interesting, I think.
Yeah, I kind of did a 180 on this game because originally I played by myself for the most part, and it's if you're just playing by yourself, there's some good experiences in that, but for the most part, it's people attacking you and taking advantage of you, and then also like if you're left to your own device, there's not really much for progression, obviously, because it's just cosmetic stuff that you're getting.
Yeah.
But as a social thing where it's just basically a chat room like that,
yeah,
it's probably one of the best ones that you could possibly find out there.
Yeah, and there's just like some classic moments of like us spending 20 minutes trying to put a ship out while we're all just constantly setting each other back on fire. And like, and like we're like the most incompetent fire crew ever. Yep. It was, yeah, I agree with you. Like it's a game that needs people. I've really grown to love it. I think there's a lot there. My biggest complaint is still that it's just like minimum of an hour of your time to accomplish the most basic thing because you have to get your ship in, you have to get it prepared, and then. But aside from that, super fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be for that. Yeah, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it so much more this time.
Yeah.
When I played it years ago. Also, there's a lot cooler stuff in there than I think originally was in there. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I never knew the base game. I mean, I remember reading reviews and watching some Let's Plays, but yeah, I think there's enough in there now. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about Marvel Rivals too, which I did install. I haven't. It was pitched to me as Overwatch with Marvel characters, and I was like, okay, that could be good. So it's free.
I did play with that. And yeah, that's tough. Like I played Overwatch very little.
Okay.
So like once you get into those games and everybody is like, I'm the tank, I'm the healer, all those, just like playing the roles and everything, it's tough to just
solo it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I played with a group that I knew for a little bit, but they were just so much better at their roles and stuff like that. And just having cooldowns on all your different things while in a fast-paced action game, it's too much. I'm too much of an old man to keep up with that, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I was hardcore into Overwatch up until I think where they ruined it with like the like ranked stuff, and like they started tearing the game apart there and then rebalancing stuff, and I was really into it. But yeah, it's all so dependent on having a good group and then just not playing the blame game. Like I ended up into so many like things where people just like freak out because like you didn't play this right or you picked the wrong fucking character, and it's just like fuck off. Like that's not what I'm here for. Like this is a video game. Who cares?
Right. And that's kind of you do end up feeling that way because after every round you're just like looking at
stats,
things and you're just like this is, I didn't help anything on this round,
Yeah. I'll check it out, but I could see maybe that not having lasting appeal. I feel like even Overwatch lost its charm, but
yeah,
at least it's free. That helps.
It's incredibly polished. I can't believe.
Oh, really?
How polished, and like the menus, everything looks so good. And yeah,
I saw like because it doesn't show any gameplay like in the overview trailer when I was installing it, but like it was showing character models and stuff, and it seemed like they just like straight like lifted like, oh, this is how the female body is shaped, like straight from Overwatch, like. Like I know they adapted them onto like Marvel characters, but I was like, oh, I see who that is. Like that's May. Like that's your Tracer. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be interesting.
Yeah, I'd play with that.
Yeah.
Again.
I mean, the price is right?
Yep.
Well, we might as well talk about it. It's old news now because it happened, like we said, when we recorded right after, 2 days after, Nintendo finally announced the Switch 2 with the most anticlimactic, zero info confirmation that the mock-ups we'd seen from third-party like accessory companies was exactly right. It was like just the biggest whatevs, and I think to me it felt like they did it completely out of necessity because it just had been so reliably leaked to such a large extent that I don't think they were ready. I think they just got something out there to make it official.
Yeah. I get, but what does that serve either? Like
right.
If the people that, I mean, if it,
well, the investors
just
loved
confirms. It. Yeah.
I mean, their stocks tanked. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It went down. Turns out if you don't put like a hard release date and a MSRP, it's hard to judge what projected profits will be. So, yeah.
Well, it's hard to put an MSRP when got some tariffs on some semiconductors.
Well, yeah, it depends on the region you're going to live in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Were you shocked by any of it or just kind of like fine?
No, the only thing that was like that piqued my interest is they definitely were like, these things are mice too.
Yeah, like it seemed like they were showing that, right?
But what are you going to use that for?
I mean, I guess if first-person shooters, like if those devs are going to put the effort into like having a mouse control option, but Nintendo is probably not going to use. Well, maybe they will for Splatoon, but like, is anybody else going to port the next Call of Duty and make that a functional thing? I doubt it. I don't know. I want it. Whatever. This is what most people have wanted, right? Was like just a straight proper update to the thing that they like finally nailed. What I'm hesitant about though is like Nintendo doesn't do well when they do the safe bet. When they do the logical thing, it seems to be when they lose interest at large, which is weird. But I hope that's not the case. But I think it's close enough to the old hardware that there's probably is going to be some of that, you know, DS, 3DS bleed over where it's just like, why do I need the new thing? Because
Yeah.
it's mostly the same for now. Like I'll just hold. It might be a slow adopt. Maybe I'm crazy and I'm wrong, but I think the people that I think there's a good portion of legacy Switch owners that saw their dreams fulfilled with the Steam Deck or the 4 or 5 other solid variations out there. And that's not the majority. Let's say that's like 20%, 30% at max of those people. And then there's going to be, you know, another 20% of the remaining group that are your hardcore dedicated Nintendo fan base. But then because Nintendo Switch is just such a ubiquitous, like, kid family console, like that main demographic there that's not the core gamer isn't probably going to jump on it. Not right away.
No, probably not.
And don't get me wrong, it's going to sell like gangbusters. This is going to be a smash regardless. But.
Yeah. Counterpoint, yeah. Mario Kart.
Right, yeah. Lead with the thing that we've wanted. Stop selling us Mario Kart 8 already. It's been a decade. Come on.
The fact that Mario Kart has the adoption rate, like, it's insane, right? I don't know what it is on 8. It's like almost every single Switch has a Mario Kart 8 copy. So if they put a new one out and it's only for that, it might not be a reason to get a new one, but it's going to be one that sells every time that a new one sells, right?
You would have to think so. Yeah. That's a good one to lead with. I think if they also announce like, hey, the next 3D Mario is coming on this, they give like Tears of the Kingdom enhanced or whatever they want to call it. I think that will be huge. Yeah, they don't have to do a lot out the get-go, knowing that we already have Mario Kart there. Let's assume that's at launch though, too. We're probably making some assumptions. Hopefully they don't have like a drought, but it seems like they should have one or two, right? Ready to go.
Metroid, right? Has to be around there, I would imagine.
You'd think they'd hold that release date until it's day and date on both, I'm sure. Yeah. And then like projected release date is possibly as early as June. I don't know. That seems like a weird time to release a console, but maybe. Mm-hmm. And then price leaks have been anywhere again between the 400 and 500, which I don't think it's going to matter. I think 500 is a harder sell, but I think 400 makes some sense too. If it's less than that, fantastic. But I'm not really worried about price, I guess.
It's hard to picture any new consoles being in the 300s anymore.
It is.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious to know more on what was it? They teased Direct in April?
Something like that, yeah. And then a bunch of
real info.
Events after that, yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be the one to watch. Again, like I've said, I'm pretty excited about this. I plan to make this probably one of the only consoles, the only console I think I bought day and date. So if I can make it happen.
Yeah. The only thing that I was trying to think of, like, they say this is like a PlayStation 4, right?
Yeah.
It's about as far, not a Pro, PS4 Pro. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in between there.
Sure.
I don't know if that's farther behind than where we are now than when the Switch was to when that launched, where that could really set it back some more. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like the high end of like what PC and stuff is getting to, and then the amount of stuff that's just hampered because of the X and S transparency. I don't know if it'll be that bad. I think it'll probably just be like, the lower res texture packs on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like the Switch was further behind than this will be, but yeah, probably not by much, not as much as I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
The Switch was just that chipset on the Switch was just already old when it was made, for sure.
Yeah.
I guess it'll be like what they can do with the custom architecture. Like, what can they actually pull off stat wise with this thing?
Yeah, they always make their own stuff look great.
Yeah,
for the most part. So
I think a lot of it'll probably come down to like how cool they can keep the internals. while still keeping it compact because
Mm-hmm.
um, you get it on the dock, whatever, you can boost power and have another fan going through it, which always kind of blew my mind that the Nintendo Switch dock didn't have like a secondary fan also to just airflow, but
Yeah.
maybe they will on this
Yeah.
one. If they're going to push 4K like they're talking, they might.
Yeah. What do you think the USB on the top would be for?
I think it's convenience. I really do. I think it's to give you a better way to, because if you're on the couch, if you're got the airplane tray out, that cord on the bottom sucks. So I'm hoping it will charge through both. But then you'd also think like with that combo, you could have, if like you said, if the Joy Cons are also mice, can you then also use one of them as a mouse and have a keyboard out the bottom USB-C and still be charging out the top? Is it going to allow you to charge it plus get some of those new like big screen glasses that are kind of like becoming popular and output to that? Can that USB-C output? We don't know. Be
That's a
interesting.
good point. Yeah.
Which, speaking of that,
dual monitors.
Yeah, there you go. Somebody did
it's a DS.
That'd be amazing. You just stack two switches, two Switch 2s, so it's technically 4, right? I saw somebody did a mod with the Steam Deck when they made the Steam block. Did you see this at all?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, a modder was just like, I don't like playing games in handheld. Like, I bought the Steam Deck because I wanted something portable on the go, but like it's too big to really fit in your pocket. So you basically just like tore it all off, tore anything you didn't need, got it down to a little nice 3D printed case about yay big. And then, has it paired with like a controller. And then again, those glasses. They really got it down to like an external hard drive size.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. I mean, to me, you're throwing away a lot of valuable bits of what the Steam Deck is, but I get it.
Sure.
So
I also those type of people, they get their enjoyment out of that more than they probably play in the thing.
Right. That's very true. I just thought that was a really cool concept, though.
Yeah.
And it's kind of actually what I wanted out of Nintendo with the Switch original for a long time. I was like, just give me the box. Like, just give me a thing that sits under the TV. What are we doing?
Yeah. PS Vita did it. How long ago? You can do it too.
Yeah, which Sony miraculously just like pushed out and immediately like didn't support and discontinued. Like that made no sense. That I've still got one somewhere, but PlayStation TV. So Lethal Company, you back at that with mods? What do you got for mods?
Yeah. So Group with the Family has been still playing that, but we're getting to the point where we kind of need to spice it up a little bit because the developer has kind of, I don't know. He is one guy, had a massive success of a game, and like is kind of just like, well, I'm going to go work on this other thing now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's his prerogative to do that stuff, but it's just wild that you set up a game that almost seems like a live service game with a lot of updates and then just be like, nah, I'm done,
Sure.
Meanwhile, like Stardew Valley, the guy is still adding stuff to it.
Yeah, Stardew Valley is like such an extreme example. Like, I can't believe you're still working on that.
Yeah. So we dipped into the mods a little bit, which we've kind of done because there's some that we needed before, where you can have more than 4 people in a group, or you can have people join at any moment in the game. But we kind of went just crazy, and there was a mod that basically ported over every Fortnite emote into the game
because that was helpful. Why?
It's I don't know. The original game comes with 4 emotes, so.
And does this include like the dancing? So you're like flossing in outer space now too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So and there is progression. You have to buy them. They show up in the computer, and you have to use your credits to buy them. So it's a little bit fun to see, like, because each person has their own little store and have different emotes available then. But they take it a step further than Fortnite, where they allow you to do it all the time. So an emote will just keep happening over just constantly.
Even while you're moving?
Right. It allows you to move.
Okay.
And then it allows you to go into first person mode and then also like play the game then too. So you're picking up stuff and everything and all while everybody is just in their emote.
So it's just like limbs flailing everywhere in ways that don't make sense.
Exactly.
Nice.
So and you can sync up to the person next to you. So you could we had like 6 people doing the chicken dance. It's all in exactly the same sync. It's amazing. If you have a really choreographed dance, it's pretty good to get in the line and just watch all your Lethal Company guys just do it. Jump out the ship and you're all just dancing all in a line toward the thing.
I like how you preface this with like you guys were getting bored with the current content. So I'm thinking like, okay, we got like nightmare mode, like new custom levels, and you're like, no, what fixed this for us was we could all chicken dance in unison. Like that's all this game needed.
Yep. That was, we did add a couple other things. That was like the main thing.
Okay.
I mean, when you're talking about a game that has monsters in the dark and you just see things down the hallways and stuff kind of scare you.
Yeah.
It adds a whole other thing when you see another guy dancing in the facility. You know, you're like, oh, what is that? Oh, okay, it's you.
It's a little unsettling. I can see that.
Also, there's one enemy in the game called a mask, and it's basically just, it looks like you, except it has like a theater mask on you, and it chases after you.
Okay.
This mod also randomly lets them emote.
Okay.
So I died, so I'm watching my one nephew, and then this mask guy comes out, and my nephew hits him with a shovel a couple times, and then the mask backs up and just does the gun show emote, just like flexes in front of him.
Okay.
And then goes attacks him again, and he ends up killing him. But it's
awesome.
So that's yeah, it adds a lot more flavor to it. There are a surprising number of custom moons that you can go to and like different interiors, like an office and stuff like that. So there's a lot of work being done in the mod stuff that definitely add new things to it. It's just tough to commit to those or really like learn them if you don't know if they're going to stay that way, or you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and then you end up with a state of the game where you can't even boot the thing up because like your mods become so unstable and you've stacked so many that now.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if he's not going to work on it, at least it's still popular enough that there are people willing to do that. So
yep.
It's when that starts to fall off that it becomes a problem.
We had one mod that we put in that monsters come out of vents. So usually if you hear a vent open, you know that a monster spawned, basically.
Okay.
Just a mod that anytime that vent opens, it makes the Scooby-Doo like sound.
Nice.
And it's terrifying because it echo the audio processing in that game. You know, it does some echoing and stuff like that. It's a little terrifying. But
that's awesome. That almost reminds me of like the Halo confetti head mod. Like I think you put that on like Championship Edition where like you've got headshots at like exploded confetti and was like, yay! It would like throw you off every time you heard it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of, you know, it's just good, clean fun, right?
I don't know about you, man. LAN parties on ice and chicken dances. Like, going down some weird rabbit holes.
We conga lined in the ship.
Naturally.
So, yeah.
I like it. What do I got? Oh, so that Nosferatu movie that came out over the holidays kind of out of nowhere. That hit our Plex server. That's like everyone's talking about what a masterpiece this thing is. No, like I'll take my 2.5 hours back, please. Like, I mean, I get it. Like the set pieces, like the capturing the period of like, you know, the London area and like that's all really neat. There's a lot of not happening in this movie. Like there are times where like nothing really meaningful happens. There's very few jump scares. Dracula has a fucking mustache for some reason that Like that's a choice that I can't live with. I'm sorry. Like in no movie has he had like a big, thick, just dry, nasty looking mustache.
Well, Vlad the Impaler, isn't he who Dracula's based on? He had a
Would
mustache.
we know that for sure? Probably, I guess. I don't know. I
I
didn't
don't know.
I didn't care for that choice. I thought it was fine. Like you know where it's going. I mean, you know the story already. It's just like it's so drawn out and just like uneventful for the most part. And for whatever reason, they made the choice that like Dracula doesn't bite people in the neck, like he just sucks blood from their chest. Which okay, I guess it's closer to the heart, but I think it'd be kind of hard to
Yeah.
bite through a sternum when maybe you could just fucking go for the jugular. But what do I know? I'm not a vampire, so
I mean, when you tell me like a director is like, I'm remaking a movie from the 20s that is, one of those that you watch in film
yeah,
school,
right.
like it's going to just be an art house type thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's going to be kind of pretentious.
Yeah,
And I haven't seen it, but that's what I got out of the situation.
yeah, that's kind of how I felt. It's just it's fine. It's serviceable, I guess. I would just choose not to watch it again ever and kind of wish I hadn't just sat through it the first time. I just kept waiting for it to like it's so, anytime you get to like 2.5 hours in a movie like that, like you're waiting for it to get either just like really engaging or like really like brutal and graphic. And it's just kind of like it just fucks around with like some dumb mind game stuff. And I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not the right guy. I watch a lot of horror though. And that is not in my vein. Like I didn't care for it.
So one of his other horror movies was the Vivitch. Or did you see that one?
Don't know if I did. Doesn't sound familiar.
And that one is it's the same way. It seemed like it was going to be like a straight up like, oh, this is going to be a scary horror type thing,
Yeah.
maybe, and it kind of drained into like a more of an arty. I don't know. It dragged out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Compared to what it is, and I still like the Vitch. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. It looks like witch, but it's just two V's instead of a W. But
Okay. I might have seen that actually.
it's the goat in the end, the evil goat.
Mm. That's what this movie needed was an M. Night Shyamalan like twist or something.
Yeah.
He wasn't even a vampire at all, It was a joke. It's like don't like ignore the man behind the giant curtain sort of thing. That's what I needed. Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably being a little critical on it, but I was so disappointed because I had such high hopes based on like everything I'd heard, and I'm good.
Yeah, he seems like everything he does is a little bit more shooting for the art crowd.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It did come off like that. Well, if you don't have any other topics, I just had one last one because I wanted your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
So, given everything that's going on and just like where I'm at with my collecting and thing, I've been thinking very seriously about like maybe it just goes, right? Like maybe it just goes. The majority of it, it's nice wall decoration that at some point I'm going to have to move. But so, what do you think are my options? Auction would be the easiest, but I'm going to leave the most on the table. eBay, online, probably the highest profitability, also most work and easiest to cheese, right? Like I'm inevitably going to lose a certain percentage of like stuff to fraudulent buyers.
Yeah.
And I can't just take it to a game store because I would throw up with what they would offer me.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, because I love it all, don't want to be the guy standing there having to haggle with some fuckbag who wants to hit me like 1/10 of street value.
Yep.
So what is my out here? Like, what do you do with a collection this size to thin like 80% of it out? Do I go to a convention and get a table? Is that the best?
Yeah, the amount that you have probably would be about the size of a table, right?
Yeah. Yeah, easily I could fill a booth.
But even then, I feel like you see at the end of the cons, like how much is left at some of those places too. You know,
Yeah, unless you're gonna be the guy who like does the fire sale thing, right? But like
you know,
that's so
but you
defeating
don't want to do
too.
that too early, you
You
know,
know,
because then
yeah, because I'm just thinking like, God, I got stuff. I mean, for me to even figure out like how much some of the stuff is worth because I haven't kept up with prices would be nuts. But
hmm
I just like,
yeah, I haven't either because I'm even interested to know if like some of the older stuff is it's probably still worth the same amount, but I wonder if like the volume of sales is probably a lot lower.
it's gotta be. Yeah, I don't know. I just like the more I just keep thinking about it and like it used to be I had it, the whole point was to have it set up down here so that I had everything convenient. Could pop it in and I would like 4 nights a week. I'd be down playing a retro game or working through a
hmm
title, but that's been 5 years since that's been the case. And
Yep.
I rearranged and took out virtually every console. The only retro console I have in this game room hooked up right now is my NES AVS, but I don't even do that because if I'm going to play a game, I'll just emulate it.
Yep.
So it's all a ticking time bomb, right? Like eventually some of it's going to go bad. Maybe some of the prices will go up, but I kind of got past that hump where it was like, well, I'm doing it because this is a preservation thing. Like, I'm not anymore. Like, there are people that are doing that better
Yeah.
than me. They don't need me to do it. And
Yep.
I don't know that I need this much of my house dedicated to it. And I could put it all in totes and I could throw it in storage. And I've got several of those from a few years back around the pandemic that I did as a first attempt. I was like, would I miss these if I put them away? And the answer was no. And I sold a chunk of that, but not nearly enough to make any substantial headway. So, no. What I'm trying to say is maybe you and I next year at MGC just get a
Yep.
booth because we've done everything else, right? We've done the friends trip, we've done the drunken friends trip, we've done we've done the responsible
Yeah. We
family
haven't
trips.
done
We've never
yeah, we
sold.
haven't done the vendor.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, and I'm kind of I'm in the same spot too because it's like I moved and all of that stuff has not come out really,
and then
you
you just
know?
find that you don't miss it, do you? It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, once it's out of sight, like it doesn't change the fact that I love the hobby and I love the games and the experiences, but it does make me think like I just don't need to physically have it. And a lot of my justification was just like fear of being able to play this stuff, especially once we were getting into the disc based things. But now that we're seeing,
hmm
Saturn emulation get good and like I'm less concerned about that. It's
Yep.
better than ever. So yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah, I mean if you don't enjoy especially if it's not a like the decor that you want either at that point because I think that's some of it too.
Yeah, I mean, I used to think this is really cool. Now I'm just kind of like, I still think it's really cool, but I understand
Yeah,
that maybe I don't need to dedicate this much square footage in my house to it. I have a man cave garage, and that's probably good enough.
sure. Do you have an idea of what you really want to use the space for?
No, just not this.
Yeah.
And well, I don't know that we'll stay here too. Like, or if we'll end up moving. So it's like, I don't want to move all this
hmm
shit. I just think like I might as well get my cash out of it, move it while people are still buying some of this stuff because we're probably not too far away from where like NES is how Atari was for us when we were hunting, 13 years ago.
hmm
Nobody's going to want it. Like, it's too
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, I mean and there is a whole generation of people that are just grew up on digital stuff
Right.
it's having the game doesn't mean anything either, you know?
Yeah.
Even me, I mean, being on Game Pass for how many years now, I just feel like I've gone kind of gone down that road a little bit where a game's a game, I guess. I guess I won't be able to play it in 40 years maybe, but
Right.
will I want to?
Right.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's just me just like finding that I don't have the time or the drive to go back to this stuff. Like I'd rather like go do something else with my limited time or if I'm gonna, some of it too, when the kids were younger, like it was a way to engage the whole family and like play through some of this. But like my kids are getting older and have their own opinions and their own things that they like, and those are the things they want to do. Like, so I'm gonna spend time doing those things versus trying to convince them to play 30-year-old games with me in the basement. So,
Yep.
and that's just the
And
reality of it.
a lot of the joy was in collecting this stuff too. And it
Yeah.
once it got to the point where you couldn't collect it, well,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Once after the pandemic, it was just like never the same.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that might be something we could do. And if we do a joint booth, it's less painful because then I don't have to be haggling over the stuff I'm attached to. You can just like step in for me and be like, yes, I will take $20 for that. Yeah. We'll see. I've talked about it a few times, but I feel like I'm just closer than ever to being like, I can move on and still be happy. And I'll have to
Yeah.
get
I
a,
mean, I've never really had there's certain parts of my collection that I kept, that I wanted this and this kept,
yeah.
but a large portion of it was just kind of whatever I had. If somebody wanted to buy it, it was gone. So
Yeah.
mine's not that curated either. So it's kind of like, well, it's not even my collection. It's what I
Yeah.
ended up with.
That's true because you did the whole like resell thing for so long before it was like the thing to do, even. You got in on it like
Hmm.
at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, you've always kind of had that different vibe to a lot of it because, like, even like when we would go out hunting together, like you didn't care if it was like something I wanted. It was like, oh, whatever. Like, just gonna sell it eventually anyway. So
Yep.
you buy it. Yeah, yeah. The only thing I'm concerned about is what the fuck do I do with Amiibo? Because I don't know that I want to. Don't think I want to keep them, and I don't know that they resell for shit. So I also don't want to get rid of them, but
Hmm.
I just don't want to store them. There's just so many boxes I would need to keep, but
I haven't thought about Amiibo in a long time in that regard because like there can't be that much demand, right? Especially for some of it.
yeah, I
Like
feel like if you were the
nobody's
people,
just getting into it,
right? And if
right?
you're the people that wanted them, you've kept up on it and you've got them, right? Like you're not gonna,
Yeah.
and I have got like the early lines and stuff, with the Smash. So it's like, I don't think anybody's after that.
There's probably ones that were not printed that much.
Yeah.
There were some rarer ones for sure, but yeah, I bet there's a lot of them that are just like, so can you even get the money that you paid for them out of them, I
Right.
don't even know.
Yeah. Once they hit that price point, like $15 or $16 for a while, it was like nuts. Cause one thing, like, I swear they were like $12 when they first came out. And they just kept creeping closer, like 20. And some of them did get over
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah. And that's just the thing with my collection that I have so much of, like just boxes and boxes of like memorabilia and, like tchotchkes and like, oh God, like that stuff's cool, but who the hell is going to buy that off me? And what
Yeah.
is it worth? And do you even haul it to a thing? I don't know.
It's so much of it is decor, right?
Right.
And the people that are into a lot of that stuff are kind of our age and they've had that decor up now.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just to me at this point, there's just like, I don't know that I need to wear that on my sleeve anymore. You know what I mean? Like, yes, still and always will be a part of my life, but I don't know that I need to. Like, I even quit wearing game shirts a few years ago. I was just like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna do this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
oh, my wife always makes fun of me too because like I just have like I don't know 30 plain black t-shirts and that's all I wear. So give zero shits. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I definitely have a limited run collection that I
Oh
would
God,
love to get rid of.
do you know how much money you would make out of that? Like it'd be ridiculous.
I don't know. I don't know. Some of those probably I bet I can't get in the money I paid for them back. I don't know.
But you're gonna have some because you got them from day one. I bet your first year's worth of prints you'd
Maybe.
make a killing on.
I think I'll get all my money back. I just per title, I don't think I will get my money
Yeah.
on a lot of them. But
I forgot that you had that limited run addiction. Yeah.
can't even imagine how much, if I stayed up with that, that would have been,
Oh, now and now
yeah,
the
you couldn't
release
have done it.
schedule. Yeah, no way, no way. There was something I just saw that Limited Run was putting out. Oh, yeah, AVGN's doing like an 8-bit version that's going to be on
Yeah.
cartridge, but it's exclusively through Limited Run, which means I'm not going to buy it. So I'll
Yeah.
find one of those like fucking cheap knockoff companies that just ROM dumps and like sells you the card for $8.
Yeah. I saw that there's a new Raiden game too
Oh, really?
that they're putting out through Limited Run, and I'm like, nah, not doing it.
Think what did I see? Is it Songbird Games is doing a new batch of Atari cards.
Oh.
And that I think goes up for pre-order on the 30th. So I'll probably buy that, which makes a lot of sense as I'm talking about thinning out.
As you're talking
Yeah.
about this.
But just like that, because that's one I'm never gonna ever get
Yeah.
at the price it goes for. And it'd be cool to play, but
See, that part I would struggle watching you get rid of that, because it is such a, there was a lot of effort that got put into that collection.
yeah, I don't know that I could
And,
part with it, to be honest.
yeah, there's a, and it, it's so rare already, and it's such a conversation piece anyway.
It's
to be
just
like, oh, this,
it's become so valuable though. Like it's worth so much more money than I put into it. Like in recent years, it's gotten stupid. But
yeah,
honestly, I don't know that I could get rid of the Jaguar or the Nintendo stuff. I think I would keep Nintendo stuff and Jaguar for the most part, because I've got my collections at least on the Wii, GameCube, and the Wii U to where they're mostly just like the core titles.
mm-hmm.
I think I could part with Super Nintendo for the most part. Just don't have the nostalgia, but yeah. I don't know.
And even if you wanted to keep, the basic ones,
Right.
that they don't take up that much room or whatever.
And my childhood games, yeah. Like even I'm looking at my Genesis and Master System wall of what I kept. I sold off a good portion of it, and I've still got more out in the garage. But I kept like the 6 or 7 titles that make sense. Like I got the Sonics and Rocket Knight, and I kept Time Soldiers and R-Type on Master System. It's like you'd have a few of those things. Ouch. Turbo Graphics I always struggle with too, because I just love it so much. But again, worth infinite. I mean, I got that stuff for so little, and like it emulates so well. I have the Analog Duo. Like I could really just be set with like an upgraded flash card. So
yep.
Yeah, we'll see. It might be time. All good things, right? Like I can't keep these things. Because that was the other thing too, is like, well, eventually I'll just like play these as I have time once my kids are out, and like I'll be retired playing video games. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go outside. Like it'll be okay.
Yep.
I don't know.
And by that time comes, what is a video game? At that point too.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe I'll talk again, but I think next year for MGC maybe, or, and I don't know how expensive this would get. We do know somebody who hosts a game like exchange in Toronto. So good road trip.
Yep.
What would screw us though was the exchange rate. Potentially. And the fact that I'm assuming most Canadian sentiment towards Americans would not be great. But we could throw in some A's, we could be like, hey, I'll take 20 on that one A, you know what I mean? We could make it work. Mask our Americanness.
We're about as close.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the whole thing where they were doing the joke that, we're going to get Canada, but Canada was saying we'll take Minnesota and Dakotas or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and we're farther north than like a good 40% of the population of Canada anyway, which you never think about. But then you look at the map and you're like, oh yeah, like they live in a way better climate than we do.
So we go south to the Toronto.
Yeah. We should maybe make it happen. Seriously, consider doing that.
That'd be fun.
This year.
Yeah.
become dirty resellers. Well, should we get to our staff picks?
Yeah.
I'll just go with mine because it ties into what we just touched on. And I was just going to touch on the Ramble Record Repeat podcast again, since we, one, stole this segment from them, and two, they just started putting out new episodes. They've been on a hiatus for quite a while. New episode just went up. They said they're going to try to be more consistent and put one out consistently this year. So I still enjoy listening to those guys and recommend you find Ramble Record Repeat on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. So
yeah, and I'd recommend plundering with them on a pirate ship.
Yes,
if you have a chance.
It's a good time. Well, how about you?
Oh, mine was a game I got on Steam called Pixel Cross Adventure. Any guesses on what this is?
I have a pretty good indication. This seems like exactly the type of game I would expect you to recommend. Is it Picross by chance?
It is Picross, yes. They hit it so well right in the name. The twist with this one is most Picross games are just like, here's a puzzle, dummy, just do it. And then at the end, it's like, oh, it's a flower. Great. Here's another puzzle. It's
right.
That's all it is. This game, you play as a character, and there's a bad guy who has pixelated all this different stuff in the world, right? So you go around an overview map and walk up to this stuff, do the puzzle, and then the item comes into the world. You've fixed the world. But sometimes there's hidden areas, and there's a little bit of a Metroidvania, where you have to solve a puzzle of one thing because you need that item, like a shovel or a key or something like that.
Okay.
So then you can take that and get to a different area that houses more puzzles.
It's kind of interesting. So they gamify the solving into something like a little more interesting than you did it on to the next.
Yep. And there's some decent humor in it because the characters talk to each other and talk about what they're doing and stuff. So yeah, I recommend it. I think I bought it for like $2 or something like that on Steam, so it's not that expensive. I don't think it was a game that was really widely even known about. It's just one of something an indie guy put out. So yeah, if you're into Picross.
And who isn't?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not you're
the only person I know that plays Picross, by the way.
What I'm trying to find is 3D Picross. They put that out on 3DS, and then they never did another one again.
And you don't have a copy of this?
I do have.
Oh, you do have
a copy of that.
You want to find somebody else who's aped that idea.
Yeah, who's done that exact thing. And I haven't found it yet, but so the regular 2D Picross will have to do in the meantime. Right. I think there's a Namco one now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you're once you're done there with like video game sprites of Namco games. I haven't played that one yet, but
makes sense. Celebrate your heritage and think about a cheap shovelware game.
Yep. That has to be you could probably do an AI thing like that. Just tell Chat GPT to make a Picross game that has a flower that's 10 by 10 or something,
Is there pervy Picross out there where like it's just like nudes and like stuff? Gotta be, right? Because
I don't know.
To me, it seems like there's got to be like a Japanese version of that where there's just like, but I mean, they blur out like the genitals and stuff because it's Japan. It'd be like a pinup girl or something.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think the biggest one I've done is probably like 20 by 20 pixels.
Yeah.
So like it's only so detailed.
Yeah, it's
a
all
lot
tiles.
of times you're like done. You're done with the puzzle and you're like, I don't know what it is, and then they fill it with color and tell you what it is. It's like, sure, you say so. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
So, I'm sure there are ones that are like that. They're just probably not all that detailed to really get you going. They're more the
seems like
Atari,
no point thing. Yeah,
Custer's Revenge type thing.
Yeah, beat him and eat him.
Yep. If you're having a good time with us at Weekend Rental, I think you might enjoy all the great geeky stuff found on the Geekade Podcast Network. They've got podcasts about games, music, movies, and more. Plus, if you order off their secret menu, also known as the Geekade Patreon, you just might find an exclusive movie podcast hosted by Ryan and myself. Check it out over at geekade.com. And hey, if you'd like to turn Weekend Rental into a true multimedia experience, our YouTube and Twitch channels might just be for you.
All right, well, let's move on to the Weekend Rental. So Weekend Rental, of course, is a game we pick for a given system each episode. Andy and I will play it, and we'll give our opinions as to whether we would buy, rent, or burn that game. By burn, we do mean light it on fire. We have gone with the Game Boy Color game this time. That is Blaster Master Enemy Below. And this falls into that I really didn't know this sort of existed category, because that window of Game Boy Color just was not, it didn't align with where I was as a gamer and the age, and a lot of the stuff, like, just, I missed it.
Well, and especially that, like, is that the second one?
No, there's Blaster Master 2 on
Oh yeah, they did
Genesis. I think there is a Blaster Master, like, straight Game Boy one too, isn't there? Or am I crazy?
Yeah, that sounds right. So they did, I guess they did keep consistent releases of it.
Yeah, and this would have had to have been fairly close to about the time that there was a PlayStation one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This feels exactly like what the next iteration of the Game Boy was, like, really popular for, the Game Boy Advance, where it was Nintendo really understood, and like a lot of those developers, not even Nintendo, third party, understood that this was about revisiting nostalgia and cleaning it up and having a better way to play it. Because Blaster Master Enemy Within lifts the majority of its assets from the NES game. It changes, some layout and stuff, but a lot of the enemies, a lot of, it's all very familiar, I should say.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, was it scaled the same?
This is much tighter. Yeah.
Okay.
You're definitely more zoomed in because of that limited screen.
Yeah.
So you suffer a little bit like we did with Donkey Kong Land, where it's just some of the game is avoiding how close you are and the hit detection to certain things.
Yes. And there's a lot of maze-like qualities in this game too, where zooming in like that does it no favors to really give you a sense of where you're at.
Yeah, it's a lot of like jumping in holes and hoping for the best, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Beyond the, at this point, I can't give it the wow factor of getting out of the vehicle like it did, the NES. That was the wow factor.
Yep.
This one, it's a little, you can't really give it that anymore. That's more of an expectation at that point.
Yep.
And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the mood that it was. Like, this game did not land for me at all. I think the maze, once you go through the door as the guy and you're on the on-foot sections, I really, really struggled to figure out where to go. A lot of the enemies were very annoying in there.
Yeah, and that was a carryover from the base game, but I think like the zoom in really made it much more compounded.
Right. And then it was like we got to the end after three of these things and be like, oh, okay, now backtrack all the way back to your car, which is just that part. It's just bad game design.
Yeah.
Just have a warp back or something.
I agree.
Nobody wants to do that part.
I really got frustrated early on too, because for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what button combination was going to let me get into doors until I realized it was holding down. Which, why would I guess I should have tried that, but I went back and forth thinking I couldn't get through the first like on foot segment probably 4 times before I hit the right thing and popped in there. And then I was just immediately furious that I'd wasted the previous 40 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I think I did that on accident
Yeah.
on
Basically,
how that
me
worked.
too.
Because yeah, I went through that. I got out, walked by that door that looked like it was half open, and I sat there for a good 2 minutes trying to figure out how to get in there. And then you go somewhere else, and there's nothing around other than another locked door.
Right. And then
So
like
I'm like, this
ledges that are
has to
out
be
of
what it is.
reach. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you said that because I felt almost guilty not immediately like being in the groove with this game because it doesn't do anything fundamentally wrong. Like it is the game, right? It's like the Blaster Master that we loved from the NES for the most part, but yeah, I found myself more annoyed with it more often. And maybe it's just because I'm not into that style of gameplay, or maybe it's just the fact that there is just too much bullshit as far as like enemy patterns and I don't know. And the backtracking
yeah.
immediately, the backtracking felt like egregious off the get go. There wasn't a clear,
Yes.
you look at something like how Blaster Master, like Zero, like the Zero series, like Blaster Master Zero, tons of exploring too, but like in logical ways. And there's an overview map. And this, you just mostly feel like you're lost in, and everything looks the same ish. So you're just not really sure what you're missing.
Yeah, and that's the part where I felt like maybe it's just I'm in the mood that it just didn't land because
Yeah.
I loved Zero. Like that was one of my
Mm-hmm.
when that came out on the Switch, that was one of the first things. I feel like it was pretty early days on Switch, and that was
It was
a
amazing.
fond memory of that game.
Yeah.
And so it felt like, how could I mean, that one wasn't all that different. So like,
No.
why does this one just not land with me? And I think a lot of it is the zoomed out part where, especially on the on foot parts, it's really tough to see
Yeah.
like which direction you're supposed to go. It's a lot of trial and error, and then you get to the end, and it's like, yeah, now go do that in reverse order. Like you're supposed to remember that.
Right.
It was like,
Right.
ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Like it just feels nitpicking, and I shouldn't be because it again isn't really different from the main game. But it's just there's a couple quality of life improvement things that you expect with a game like this now that it makes this hard to revisit. But there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it though. I mean, it's got the vibe. The soundtrack's killer. I mean, it controls really well. It's just in an era where we're not conditioned to bullshit, it just gets very frustrating. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that's like where maybe some of it is like you're saying. It's just like maybe it's the mood we're in now with that, and I think that's probably some of it. I did look it up, and it's interesting to know that this thing came out different timings based on the region, but it came out in 2000, which is like
Jeez.
that's so far. So the PlayStation game, I think, has definitely been out by that point. So there'd been another Blaster Master game. You're right
The
around the
Advance was out
corner
in
from the game.
'01, right?
I think so. Yeah. So yeah, the Game Boy
Yeah.
Advance is basically there.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I think it suffers a lot because like you start off in the vehicle and you play it with that a while, and there's no upgrade, there's no
Right.
like
Right. The loop is
no
missing.
no real pace to like progression or to anything with that vehicle.
Yeah.
And I think it gets you out of sync with it because it's just like, well, I did all this exploration with this thing,
Yeah.
basically died in some really shitty ways because some patterns are just awful in this game, but whatever.
Yep.
And I got nothing for it.
Yes.
So yeah, that was, and then the on foot section, and then it was like, well, the pacing on this, there was nothing that was rewarding for
Yeah.
the first like half hour of the game.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think you nailed it. I think it did feel like you were just going through the motions for nothing. Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, what would you? Obviously, we've got some pretty negative thoughts or gripes, but what would you give it? That I think on the Byron Burn scale.
I was thinking, before you said it came out in 2000, that really kind of put a damper on like what I was going to be like, this is a really, for me, I would, personally, I think it's a burn, but technically, I guess it would be a rent, but I think I have to go burn. I mean, this,
Okay.
even for 2000, this is not good, like a not good effort. You think about all those Game Boy Advance and even like the DX series on
Sure.
all those updates, they were tremendous upgrades, and this just not a good version of that. I guess the music's the only thing that I could be like, yeah, that's pretty decent music, but even that got pretty repetitive.
Sure. Sure. I can't I'm feeling what you're saying, but I can't bring myself to actually burn it because I think there's enough there that fundamentally captures the spirit, even though I wasn't in on it. So I'm gonna give it a rent. I think the funny thing is if you looked at review scores at the time, like this scored very well. People were very
Mm.
into this, but yeah, I don't know. It does the things, it looks like the things, but there's just something that I struggled with this iteration of this franchise. And it's some of the stuff we talked about, but then there's just some of it I just might just be a point in time thing. But I'll be generous and give it a rent. I probably will never play this again.
Yeah, I compared it a lot to Zero because
Yeah,
like
me too. Yeah.
I really like that game, and this just falling flat like that, it just was disappointing. I thought, Zero had a lot more weapon upgrades and reward to it, progression, it seemed
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, and
So
I think that is a huge part once you mentioned that. Just doesn't do a lot to justify and value your time, like giving you the incentive to keep going.
right, I can't imagine it's a very long game either. So I mean, for how much I played, I guess I played a lot of like exploration because I
Yeah,
was
the
lost. I
first
didn't know
area,
where the hell
yeah.
to go, but
Me too, right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm disappointed. I thought this was going to be a better one, or at least hit better. But if we're wrong, let
yeah,
us know. I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
we're crazy.
Yeah, you can send all those negative comments
Hmm.
to weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. There are people out there that will probably never say anything negative about Blaster Master, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because the first one was so mind-blowing and kind of underrated for its time, I think everything else maybe got a pass after that.
Yeah, it could be.
Because the other, like the Genesis one is
Yeah,
not good
not
either.
good.
But
No. Sometime we should check out the PlayStation one. I haven't done that.
I don't know what that even is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that a 2D one then too?
it's
I don't
3D.
know. It is,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, that might be interesting to check out. But again, he can get out of the car in a PlayStation.
Right. Yeah. No shit. Yeah, that's happened before.
Yep. Um. Yeah, we're also on Blue Sky.
Yes.
You can find us there.
You could follow us on another platform that used to be called Twitter, but we've made the conscious decision to just move away from that. So I'm going to keep my profile and the Weekend Rental one out there. I'm not deleting anything, but I'm not going to be posting anymore. But I know we have
Mhm.
some people who contact and message through there. I'll leave them live for that reason. But
Yep.
please encourage you to go over to Blue Sky, and maybe we need to look at, I don't know, what are the kids doing these days? TikTok's out, right? Is Instagram? Do we need to do an Instagram? What is an Instagram?
I think Instagram's like for old people now.
Ah,
We're I don't even know.
OnlyFans? Is that what we need?
Well, yeah, but that's boy. Can we do something with OnlyFans and also sell your collection? Like, is there
Oh,
some sort of like money stream through there?
yeah. I like
You,
where you're headed. Breaking new ground on there.
yeah, like do completely nude like video game giveaways or something like that.
It's definitely going to work. This is going to be genius. But yeah, Blue Sky. Go there if you haven't already. Or if you're not going to go because you don't want to, I get it. But if you're on there, we're there. Follow us. I'll be posting stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's going to do it. Till next time, be kind, rewind.
Bananas.